Welcome back to Cub Cadets. Today working on a 782, actually it's really a 784. This one right here came with dual remotes on it. That makes it a 784. We're going to put power steering on it. Now this power steering right here was off in the 1872. A couple disclaimers before I put you in the stand and show you how this goes on. This is a very tough job, and you're going to have to make some adjustments to make everything work. First thing you're going to have to do is get rid of that bracket right there, change it over to that style right there. And how you do that is you get one off in a Cyclops. 1864 is one model that'll have it. They have the side bracket. And the reason why is you're going to have a different adjustment, and I'll get a tape rule to show you exactly the changes you're going to have to make. Number one thing is you're going to have to drop this bracket down with a remote valve here down to this measurement right here. It's around 5 inches from the bottom of that bracket to that orbital motor. You will have to tweak your lines a little bit, and you can see I bent them, and they bend very easy. Just bend them very slow. And you're going to have to change out that bracket. This is on a Super Cub 2072, 1872. For this one, off in a Cyclops, off in 1864. Another thing you're going to have to do is make one rubber hose, and that is going to be installed in the back right here. Now I labeled this transmission. This side over here is your out. This is your in. This line right here is the one that goes for the dual remotes, and it comes right out to here because you have to tee them off. And I'll show you the tee is right there, and that's your out. Now you can see your valve there is labeled out and in. So I'm going to show you that one more time. I'm going to put you in a stand. Another thing I did is I zip tied the harness back a little bit right there because you do have to put the side bracket bolts in for the levers. We're going to put them levers up through that hole there. This is a kind of a tough job, but we're going to go slow at it, and we're going to install it. Now, I took off, obviously, the steering wheel. There's a rubber cap right here. I have it on the seat, the nuts off and everything. And I've greased up the bracket in this area right here, so this will slide right up. This is the toughest portion of the job right here, and you're going to hold your levers right about here. We're going to put this in. We're going to slide it up in. I'm going to tuck these down underneath here. You're going to have to bend these levers just a little bit to get them to go up through. And we have it up in there. We're going to put the side bolt in here first thing. And I'm going to put a nut right on it. And I'm going to go back through and tighten it up a little bit later, but I want to get a nut on it so we're not losing it. And the reason I'm not going to tighten it up is because of these levers right here. Now, I want to get them in order. Let me take you out of the stand to show you. That's where we're at right now. We're going to put the side bracket in that goes right here for the support for the levers that go on the dash. Probably should have picked a little bit cooler day to do this job. It's 90-some degrees here in New York today. Now, I I will admit, the first time I put this on, one of these on, I was very, very nervous. It's really not that big a deal. Take your time, be patient, and you'll get it. And it surely makes a 782 quite the machine. There's no question about it. If you zip tie them, the harness back there, it makes it a lot easier. There's no question about it. Now I'm going to tighten that up now. It takes a 7/16 to do that. So we're in there. So now we're gonna go, you can see that's going up and down. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tighten up this bottom bolt now. Takes it's 3/8, so it's gonna take a 9/16. Now we're rigid. We're in good shape, everything's installed there. We're going to start hooking up the lines here. One thing is, I didn't know the first time I did this that there was, I thought you could just take it right out of an 1872, use the same brackets and make it work. You can't. You have to have the Cyclops brackets to do it. And after you do that, it makes this job a lot easier. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run that rubber hose down in from the back. One thing you will have a little bit of an issue with is when you put the tunnel on, it'll be a little bit tougher. I'll show you that. I'll take you out of the stand real quick. Right there's that hydraulic hose. Obviously, it's going to bend over like that when you put your tunnel in. And we're going to install it right down in there. And you're going to need one of these crowfoot type wrenches to do it. Now you might have to, when you put the motor in, you definitely want to have the motor out of the machine to do this. I apologize for sweating a little bit, but it's really warm out today. Now, one other thing I'm going to take you out of the stand to show you is I changed out the axle. This now has a Cyclops axle in it. It'll make it a lot easier to, and I have past videos on it, how to put one of these Cyclops front ends on. It's only one bolt. It takes an 1.1" socket and wrench to change that out on the kingpin right there. It'll make it a lot easier to install the cylinder and have it working. So we're going to keep the line loose in the back here. And the reason why I'm going to keep the line loose there is when I start it up, you're going to have air in it. So you definitely want to get the air out of it. I had a gentleman once that laughed that off, and you can't laugh it off with orbital motor. Orbital motor will build so much pressure down in this that it'll blow the seal right out of it, and then you'll have a mess, and then you'll have to buy a kit to replace it. So that's one thing you want to do, is make sure your air is always out of it. If you have air in a system, it'll definitely blow, it's going to blow some seals because it has to get out somehow. Now this, we're hooking up the cylinder for the main lift. Takes a 9/16. Now, when you install these, I recommend you just buy a whole kit with the dual remotes. It makes it a lot easier. I was told once you can't use a single valve. You actually can. All you have to do is put a triple fitting on your out. So you can use it. And one of these days, I'm going to take part of a Cyclops one and install it in an 82 series. So it is possible. Actually, I think it's going to be a lot easier to do compared to the one, because everything is so rigid on the Super Cub ones. So we're going to hook up this line here next. We're going to hold that up there. Hopefully that catches. One thing I'm going to do is spray it down with some WD-40. When I put stuff together, I use a lot of WD-40. I think it really makes it a lot quicker. For years, I didn't use WD-40. In my opinion, I think it definitely makes installing so much easier. It cleans your parts when you're putting it together. It's definitely an old-fashioned chemical that really works very well. So now we're hooked up to the out, and that's your return. So after the oil, this is your one that goes in, and it goes in the valve, up to your remote valve, through your valve here for all your lifts and your front remotes. And the oil you don't use returns and goes back in there. So that's how, oops, 9/16, I want to check this. I didn't think that looked tight. We're going to tighten that up. So next we're on to the cylinder. I'll take you out of the stand. One thing I did on the lines for the go on the cylinder, I labeled them. There's front, right there's back. So I'm going to put you back in the stand. We're going to put that cylinder on. Like I said, you can't use the one from the Super Cub because it just won't, there's not even holes on the frame on just the plain spread frame, short frame to put them on. So I'm going to put you back in the stand, give you a little bit different angle on it. Putting that in. We're going to put their 1/2-inch bolts. So it's going to take a 3/4. I'm going to move that choke over. Now I'm going to put both bolts in, but I am going to tell you, and I'll show you that. I'll take you out of the stand in a few seconds, and I'll show you some change we're going to have to make. Is when you do this, only put the back bolt in, and I'll show you why in just a few seconds. It's nothing to do with hooking up the power steering. It's all to do with putting the motor back in the machine. And the reason why, I'll take you out of the stand again, is that bolt right there is going to hit right there, and it's going to make it tough to drop that motor in. And it's bad enough when you have dual remotes on it to get the motor in. Now, believe it or not, that's a KT17 that really runs, and actually it's the best running KT17 I've ever had. And amazingly enough, you don't get them very often. So it takes a 3/4. We're going to tighten that right up. We're going to hook up the front first. We'll move the harness over. Now make sure you have all your spacers in there. Right there's a spacer that has to go in there. And the reason why is so it gives your bolt, makes it so you can pivot it. So there we're in there. Now we're going to install the lines. This one here is the front. Now after I get the lines on, I'll show you a picture. For some reason that is not going on there real easily. There it goes. Now you might have to move these lines around. They're O-ring right in this end right here, so it's no big deal as doing that. In fact, I'm going to move this one around just a tad. It takes 11/16. I believe I have 11/16 over here. You can see I just moved that real quick. Now the first one you do is not going to be real easy. So you're not going to make as good a time as I have. Practice makes perfect. Obviously it isn't my first one I ever put on. Even I get a little bit worried sometimes and thinking it out and making sure that I might not make a mistake or whatever. But if you make a mistake, you can correct it. So I'm going to take you out of the stand and give you a walk around real quick. We're going to put the remote lines on next. But you can see them fittings are all on right there and ready to go. We have to put the steering wheel on, but we're going to put you back in the stand and we're going to put the remote lines back on. It really doesn't make a lot of difference, but I do believe this one here is the bottom one. Takes 5/8 for these. Now when I put the motor back in, I might take these lines back off just to have them so I know that they're ran correctly. And you have your fuel tank, obviously, it goes in this area right here. So I'm going to shift you around. We're going to put the steering wheel on. And then we'll give you a walk around, show you that it's all done. Put this dust cover on. You can put never sees on them, but I am going to tell you something, like I told you earlier in the video. I've had them, you just spray WD-40 on them to take them off and move the steering wheel around a little bit, and the steering wheel came right off. So I'm a true believer in WD-40. Takes a 15/16 to put the retainer nut. and the center cap's on. So it's on. I'll give you a walk around. I know I made it look a little easier than your first time of doing it, but this is your toughest portion right here and right down in here. Just remember, like I told you, you're going to need 2 parts from a Cyclops. 1864 will have them. That yellow piece right there and that black piece right there for the steering cylinder. The steering cylinder goes underneath the floorboard on these machines. But it's all installed. I'm going to get the motor back in. Future videos, you'll see it operating. And sure appreciate everyone watching my channel. And please, if you haven't so far, please subscribe to my channel, and we'll talk to you on the next video.